Hello and welcome back to the Macca's Talk Hockey Podcast, the podcast where me and my brother Charlie and our good friend Dan talk about English ice hockey, specifically the NIHL. And we are on to our third team special ready for the 25-26 NIHL season. And it is the Peterborough Phantoms special. And we've got a special guest who we've had on before, but he's returning. It's our good friend Tom Norton. So I'm interviewing him tomorrow, but that will be in this episode, whether I post that out on Tuesday or Wednesday. We've done two team specials already. We've done the Hull Seahawks and the Telford Tigers. So if you haven't watched them already, watch this one first, and then you can go back and watch those ones. And if you don't know what the team specials are, we basically talk about how their seasons went last year. We look at the roster they've signed up this season, our expectations, and we pick out are ones to watch each as well. And as I said, this is the Peterborough special. But even if you're not a Peterborough fan, I would advise you watch all the specials because you get to know all the different rosters around the league, what your team's going to be facing. So a bit of a late night one, Charlie. And Dan, it is currently just gone 11:15. But Charlie, you're going away on Thursday, so we're trying to get out a couple more with you in them before me and Dan and Dad will probably do a couple while you're away.
hmm Yeah, and Peterborough. I like Peterborough a lot, so I'm glad I get to do the Peterborough special.
Nice one. Dan, anything to add before we crack on into last season?
Nope, I'm all ready. Let's get into it.
Nice one. So the Peterborough Phantoms, they finished sixth in the NIHL. No, sorry, fifth in the NIHL. And they did not make the semi-final of the cup, but they did make the final of the playoffs. As they always do, they are a very strong playoff team. They get to Coventry all those years, obviously with Slava. Just getting it done in those playoff and the cup moments. And I think that was a big part of their season last year. And I actually think, Charlie, they had a very successful season. Now, it will be a bitter ending that they ended up losing to Milton Keynes in that final. But again, no one really put them to be in that playoff final again. And they did. But they just come short in the end. I think they look quite tired against Milton Keynes. But on a whole, I think they had a pretty decent season for what we expected from them last year.
Yeah, I would agree. I think so. I think making a playoff final as a mid-pack team is always pretty successful. I think they'll be slightly disappointed in the way they played in the league at times. I think like they lost 10-2 to Bristol, like they'd happily admit that's not acceptable. It doesn't matter if you're not fully focused on the league. And I think maybe this year, more than other years, they had games where they conceded more goals. They maybe looked a bit more vulnerable than they have done in previous years defensively. But altogether, I thought they had a decent season. I thought they had a really good playoff run. They got out of a very challenging playoff group. And I think maybe the biggest critique would be the batterings they took a couple times in the season,
Yeah.
and maybe as any team, they didn't really start the year too fast, so they didn't
No.
qualify for the cup. And Slava loves a cup, and Peterborough have always been a cup team, so I'm sure that would have been a disappointment. But altogether, I think they probably outdid their expectations by making it to a cup final again.
Yeah. And Dan, they might not have had the most consistent season, but they finished fifth place. I think they beat every single team in the league. They beat Swindon, Leeds, MK. They gave MK some brilliant games this year. And the standout for me was throughout the season that top line. It was pretty much the top line for the whole season. Ferrara, Huff, and Lackinen. Um, Ferrara getting 94 points, Huff getting 92 with 54 goals, and Lackinen getting 88 points with 75 assists. That was kind of the star of the Peterborough Phantoms, wasn't it, really? And they heavily relied on that top line at many points this season.
Yeah, and I think that was half their issue sometimes. I think
Yeah.
teams did find them out and they did sort of nullify that top line and they would sort of go into games and be like, if we can stop this top line from producing and this top line from rolling, we've always got a chance in this game. And I think that's the biggest thing that I think Peterborough need to work on is they sort of didn't seem to learn from their mistakes last year. Like I saw them a few times. Obviously, I saw them against Swindon, saw them against MK. They played really good against MK. Like they would always turn up to those games. But it's like Swindon, for example, they could never seem to get over that hump, especially Swindon away. They always seem to struggle playing in Swindon, and they never seem to learn from what they had, obviously, from what happened before. So I think they just need to sort of try and adjust to the circumstances that they've got. And I think obviously they need to try and use a bit more of their lineup. You saw it in Coventry that they can use their whole lineup, and sort of they've got a lot of aspects of that team that can turn up in different scenarios. But I think they just need to try and find that team to turn up in all different scenarios throughout the league as well, and not just those cup games and those playoff games that obviously we know Peterborough like to focus on.
Yeah. And they did have a few injury problems throughout the season. Not everyone, like Lackinen, for example, he only played 42 of those games last season. Duncan Spears only played 38, Mitchell King 44, Foster 31. So there was a lot of players who didn't wasn't able to play 50 plus games throughout the season, which meant they did get a lot of youth players coming in the lineups, Charlie, and we saw Louis Kinniston take a big step last year, getting a lot of responsibility, 14 points for him. And he might be quite a small lad, but under Slava, he just he forechecked well. He found those places around the net to get a few goals. And then you saw the likes of Hartman come in. You saw the likes of there was another one I had in mind. Um,
Palmer.
then Skatonis and even AJ Herring come into the lineup as well. So just quite a lot of younger players getting opportunities, and they're going. We'll talk about them a bit more in the second half, but they'll get their even more opportunity next year as well.
Yeah, I think so. Even Barnabas Sarri, I don't know if you
Sorry, that's
mentioned
it.
him.
Yeah,
He had some moments, and I think it was a weird year for Peterborough. They lost quite a few depth pieces from the year before, if I'm not mistaken, from the year they won playoffs. Yeah,
Nordstrom.
they had Susters move on, they had Paddy move on, they had Cyrus Ennis move on, and they also had Will Wowden move on. So they had a good chunk of that forward core kind of move forward. And having a couple injuries throughout gave that opportunity. But I think, yeah, Louis Kynaston was one which really stood out to me as the season went on. You could see the coach trusted him more and he grew in his game. It was kind of frustrating for him because he had the GB run during the playoffs, so you never really got to
Yeah.
see him at Cov because I think Slava would have definitely used him. And then obviously it was a new looking goal for Peterborough. It had its ups and downs, but they had Loving in goal, and to be honest, I think that was a medium success. I think that's the way I'd describe that goalie. I don't think Loving hit his very best, and I think Loving can play better than he did. But I thought Loving turned up in Cov when they needed him, and he was pretty consistent throughout the year. He finished with a good save percentage, and he did what you kind of wanted him to do. I think there probably was a level to go up, but that was a big difference for them this year. I think they probably had better goaltending in the league than they did the year before.
Yeah, I think come playoffs though, I think we said that he would take that step up, and he did, to be fair. And I think you're right. He'll want to get that level of consistency being a starter because he hasn't been a starter for a long time, playing 50 plus games. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything to describe last season. As we said, Peterborough fans probably won't want us to go on about what happened in the cup final. Quick one on Nathan Salem. I'm sure we'll talk about him a bit in the second segment, but he had a ridiculous playoffs just on that
Unreal.
second line. He single-handedly did destroy Swindon, along with some other players defensively, but he was phenomenal. And I'm excited to see him progress next season. But yeah, a pretty successful season for Peterborough. They didn't win a trophy this year, and I don't think any of them knew Slava was going to move on. So we'll talk about in the second segment of kind of a new era for Peterborough. But yeah, enjoy the interview of Tom Norton. We always have a great chat with him, and I think he's got an even bigger role next season. And welcome back. We've got another special guest on, his second appearance, as part of our Peterborough special. Tom Norton joins me. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, keeping well, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. We're about a month away from the season starting, and we were just chatting. Then you've ticked off. You've got a few weddings out the way. Getting to a few players' weddings so during the off season.
It's definitely something you always see in it. Although all the guys are all getting married and different teams, different weddings and stuff like that. So they're always good fun. People letting their hair down a little bit as well.
Nice one. And when's kind of your plan to get back to getting on the ice or meeting up with some of the boys again, ready for the new season, or have you done that already?
Obviously, living in Nottingham, we have ice time in Nottingham that we use. Few of the local guys book out the ice there, and there's like myself, Gretz, a few of the Nottingham guys, a few guys travel from like Coventry and all over to jump on the ice as well. I think we've got ice starting on the 7th of August
Okay,
in
not too
Peterborough
long.
for guys to start jumping on as well. And obviously everybody's been kind of working hard in the gym and doing their off season stuff as well to get prepared for the season.
Nice one. Before we get on to this season, then just quickly touching on last season, obviously finishing fifth in the league, making it all the way to the finals, and I think you actually had quite a really good end to the season. Obviously, bitter ending in the end in that finals, but you must be proud of how the lads kind of come together. And I guess the underdogs again get into the finals, written off by a lot of people, and Slava and the boys got there. But yeah, how would you assess kind of last season?
Yeah, I mean it was another kind of up and down season. I think there was a bit of adversity there with injuries and suspensions, but
Yeah.
like a lot of teams had that as well. I think at the start of the year we kind of had a pretty good home run of form, which I think if we'd been able to replicate a little bit with our away form, we might have been a little bit higher up the table. But yeah, we struggled a little bit away from home, and then it seemed to like balance off. And like anything, then you get to that kind of point then where you kind of find where you are in the league table, don't you? And then you kind of then building into the playoffs. Unfortunately, missed out on the cup as well again. So
Yeah.
it kind of then gives you that lull period. But again, you're trying to play the right way, build the foundations there to then put you in a good place for the playoffs, which again obviously did happen for us again this year with the 6 games that we played, and it wasn't an easy group. Um, but I guess, like you say, we were a team that was probably maybe overlooked a little bit, but and you look at kind of the squad that we had and the guys that had been there for a long time, and Slava knows how to do it. We know, I guess as a group, there's enough guys in there to kind of lead the way and know how to get the job done and get there. And like you said, unfortunately, it wasn't quite there at the end. But again, a massive achievement for the club to get ourselves there.
Yeah. So obviously you had three imports. Obviously you had the three new imports last season with Hayden, Lackinen, and Harfinis. I think it's safe to say them three were a success as well coming into the team.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like Cam was just unbelievable. A massive, massive import for us. I mean, you always kind of run the risk on when I guess you're signing an import and it's an unknown, it's a new one to the country, so you just don't know what you get in or how they're going to play. But he's a fantastic guy, great in the dressing room, played the right way, and obviously just contributed massively. Yanni's just an unbelievable pro. Again, for all the young kids that are in our dressing room, for them to like see how he goes about his business. He's there before the game. I don't know if you probably saw in Swindon, like be out the dressing room with his hoodie on, going for a run around the ring, doing all his rolling out and stuff like that. And the same after the game as well. Like really looks after himself, and it's no surprise that he's played that long and been that good because he does the right things to I guess prolong his career and keep on going. And obviously Hayden, I think it took a little while. He'd probably say just to get used to the league. He'd had a year where he'd not played, so getting back in the goal and playing. But throughout the year, I think you saw how good he was, and he was always so calm in the net. Never got flustered. Great in the dressing room as well. Again, in terms of being able to support the guys. Give knowledge, but never kind of got too high, got too low. Was always really good at kind of accepting responsibility as well if it messed up, which is always a massive thing in the dressing room as well for
Yeah.
having everybody held accountable as well. And he made some massive saves for us and kept us in games. Along with then, I think you probably saw the best of him during that playoff run as well, which was obviously great to see. And he was a big part of why we got ourselves to the final there.
Yeah, and I think it says it all if we're going on to this season coming up that those three have all come back next season, and speaks levels to the team as well that they've wanted to stay as well within Peterborough.
Yeah, for sure. I think given what's kind of happened as well, obviously with the coach change, for them to still want to stay and obviously be in our dressing room and play in Peterborough, like you say, speaks volumes. And kind of you see that with a lot of guys really that have come to Peterborough. They normally do stay for quite some time as well. Obviously, like I say, we'd had Paddy before, Stepanek and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
the imports like to stick around a little bit.
Nice one. And I guess let's get on to it. The big news coming out was Slava moving on to Sheffield, but we were just speaking off camera there. 12 years at Peterborough. Try and sum up your time playing under Slava Kulikov at the Peterborough Phantoms.
He's been a massive part of like kind of my time in Peterborough. I think I'd had 1 year where he wasn't the coach when John Kinniston was the
Yeah.
coach. And yeah, just the way he kind of developed the club, made it more professional. The way he went about his business, it's we all know that the team's not got a massive budget, but he utilised it to the best he could in terms of bringing players that were maybe young and up and coming or going under the radar and giving them an opportunity to play and flourish and show what they can do. And I think again that's why players stuck around so long because they respected him, they appreciated the opportunity that he gave them, and I think obviously it's a big loss for the team. It wasn't expected; it was out of the blue, but it's a fantastic opportunity. He's got there to go to Sheffield and be involved with that organisation, and you can't kind of blame him for taking that chance to make that step really and get involved there. But yeah, I think a lot of guys would have a lot of good things to say about Slava and his time there. That he's devoted a lot of time to that hockey team, whether it's cutting video, preparing practices as you do as a coach, or doing all the little things. You don't see like he's there emptying the washing machine. He's sorting out all the kit orders. He's helping obviously sort out the team bus and he's not just the coach. He's doing everything behind the scene and all those bits. Obviously, he's got the support of the other directors and stuff like that. But it was effectively it was his baby. So yeah.
If I had to put you on the spot, then what was kind of your favorite moment or achievement playing under Slava?
Oh God, there's been quite a lot. But I think it always goes back to probably that EPL playoff championship
Yeah.
we won in his first full season. And again, like how it's always really been, it's kind of nobody's really expected us to win or be there and do that. And again, that season just kind of grew the philosophy, the ethos within the team, the belief, great goaltending that we got as well. And yeah, it just grew and grew. And the mad thing was, I think I don't know if I said it last time when we spoke, we took to that ice after we beat Telford the night before against Manchester, and it was no like disrespect to Manchester, but we just knew we were going to win. We didn't feel like we were going to lose. It felt like we just had it, and from then on, like once you've kind of had a group of guys that have then won together, it kind of then cements itself within the team, and
Yeah.
you come close a few times and whatnot, but you've got that culture within. I suppose you kind of saw it with Leeds, obviously a really really talented team for like the first few years, but didn't quite get over the line with winning, and then they win one and bang
Bang,
off they
yeah.
go because they've kept that core together, so they know how to get it done. They know how to win. Obviously, the elusive one for us has always been that league title. We ran close a few times, whether it was the EPL, the NIHL, was it South that we played in as well, and but you know, it's hard to win stuff.
Yeah.
So to be in finals or semi-finals and stuff like that, and be in the hunt for stuff, you just have to appreciate it for what it is because there's certain players around the league that have probably never even come close to
Yeah.
winning something, say at this level kind of thing. So you just have to appreciate it and look back fondly on it.
Yeah, but it brings a new era to Peterborough, and a young up and coming coach of Ash Tate, who's had a few years now. Obviously, with Bison, was with Bees briefly last year, but he inherits this team. And what are you expecting from this new coaching? Because we were speaking on this episode, obviously, me, Charlie, and Dan saying it's a lot of the same players, but I'm sure he's going to add his kind of own little bits in as well, to help you guys and I guess play his style as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if we'd, had ended up sticking with Slava, that would have been great. But 12 years is a long time. So,
Yeah.
I think for Slava and maybe the team, maybe this is a good thing, and a new voice, a new man at the helm here to take it in a different direction. Obviously, he'd coached against us when he was at the Bison. Obviously, he was on the bench at the Bees, so he knows what we're kind of about as a team and what made us successful. But again, he stood on the opposite side, so maybe he's noticed something or seen something different that we could maybe do. And he's got, as every coach has his own style of play. I was always impressed with him when he was at Bison, especially that first season when I think he got the team like a month out and he had to build it. And again, I think it was the NIHL one South, but I think we ended up playing them in two finals. And again, they were really hard to beat as well. And if that's anything to go by, again, that kind of blue collar, hard working team, everybody buying in. Again, I know we've got that within our team anyway, and anything else that he's going to bring to the table, which I'm sure he will, is really exciting.
Yeah. And I guess your big kind of signing to come this season, that extra import slot brought to the league, and you bring over Dylan Lawrence, who had probably the biggest moment for Milton Keynes last year in getting that overtime winner for them. How big's that going to be to just get that extra import forward for your lineup? Whether you keep that top line the same, you got Dylan to run that second line, whatever it is, you've got that extra import depth piece to add to that forward core.
No, definitely. I think the extra import came at quite a good time, really, given that, obviously Dunk's moved on. Austin Mitchell King has then gone and moved to take that opportunity in the league above in Glasgow. So, it definitely helped within that. But yeah, obviously, kind of found out that we were kind of in the hunt for him and then obviously signed him. I think it was huge because obviously, I think the season before was he 100 points or close to
He
100
got
points?
2 points a game because he didn't play all 54, so he got
Yeah.
85 points.
Yeah, so and he's a centre as well, like you say.
Yeah,
So and they're
massive.
good centres, who know how to play both sides of the puck and contribute, and it just adds that extra depth. I mean, sadly we lost Jarvis, who was a really good centre who predominantly played on our like third and fourth line when he was with us, but he had the ability to bump up the
Yeah,
lineup and jump up. I think he was obviously really successful when he played with the Martin Susters, and somebody else as well, and did quite well there. But yeah, I think just having that centre depth, it's such a key part to a team of having that. And I think if we look through our roster now, obviously with Cam, Dylan, obviously Louis Kinniston's so young, but even as a fourth line centre, he's so responsible, and it's always great to see him in the face-off circle, sometimes snapping the hands off like an import on the other team, and they're like kind of stood there like, what's going on here? But he puts in the work. But and a few other guys that we got. Obviously, Salem can play in the middle and stuff like that. So you look down our centre depth. Obviously, with four centres, we've probably got another couple as well that can then jump in on face-offs if needs be. So it's an important part of the ice.
And I think he adds a little bit of something different to Peterborough, which maybe you need in terms of skill. He's a big body as well, and
Yeah.
I just think he's a skill guy who's got an incredible shot, which will be so key to adding a different element to Peterborough. And I'm sure Ash was a big part of wanting him in his team as well.
Yeah, I think I'm right in saying that he played with. I think he played with Luke and Yanni in Coventry, I
I
believe. I,
think
I might be, I might be
I'll have
right
a
there.
double check, but he definitely did play in the Elite League for a few seasons.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
I think
did.
that's definitely.
Coventry, you're right. Yeah, two
Yeah,
years.
so there's that connection there. I mean, I said that first season he was obviously really good points production wise, and obviously I know he was hurt quite a bit last year, but I mean if you look at his point production to games played again, like it was really good. I personally was probably quite surprised given how he played in the playoffs and what he did there that
Yeah.
he was we were able to get him, but obviously it's a big catch for us, and hopefully it all goes well, and it's a big part of the team next year.
Nice one. And we were looking at the decor actually, and we'll quickly skip over that you're 35 years old, but the rest of the decor is all 30 years or younger, and you've got the likes of Billy Thorpe, who feels like he's been around the last couple seasons. He's only 20 years old. You've got Vince Katonis, who played as I'm pronouncing that right, aren't I?
Yeah,
Venskato, yeah, Charlie. When you listen back, Charlie pronounced it horribly. So he's terrible with pronouncing. But he had his first year. He's 19 years old, and still got Callum and Robson as well. So you've got that decor which you know you can trust with, and Brad as well. Well, probably the main one who I forgot, who I think is going to have a massive season this year.
yeah. I mean, again, we've all been together a long time. I suppose the five of us. Obviously, Noyes came in last year as an 18-year-old, sort of first kind of full year of I
Men's
guess
hockey.
senior hockey.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess for us, it's a big statement that we've always kind of stayed together and always been trusted, and we seem to have a good balance. Like you say, you go through like Callum's just so dependable. You know what you're getting from him each night. He does the right things defensively and then contributes offensively. Sometimes makes some plays that are just unbelievable. Robbo is always that guy that'll be in front of a shot, blocking the shot again. He's strong with the first pass, just dependable. And Brad on his day is I've always said he's so dynamic and does things with the puck that are just like blows your mind. And like you say, a big year for him again. Like, it was really good to obviously make sure that we kept him because he's a big piece, and Billy keeps on developing. I think Noyes as well had a really good year, especially again then towards the back end you started to see really what he can bring to the team, and once that confidence grows, especially with a young kid, because that's the big thing. And older guys, I guess coaches will tell you like the game's massively mental in
Yeah.
terms of like your mentality and how you think about things, and it's controlling those emotions of you're going to make a mistake, but you then don't want to follow up with another mistake and then another mistake. You've got to kind of find a way to level out your game and then build your confidence again as you go. And
Yeah.
it is hard to do, but you can only learn by sadly making mistakes and then growing from it.
Yeah. And the other key point we talked about was the youth coming through with Peterborough. You've obviously got Kinniston who got that full season last year and he's progressing really well. But then you've got a couple of other lads who you've added in AJ Herring who's old enough now to play. I believe he got a few games last year. And then Alex Rushby, who you've managed to get on a two-way, who looks very exciting, 2 points a game for the Lions for the Nottingham lads. So I bet you're really excited to see how they develop and kind of push their way into some of the games next season for you guys.
Yeah, I mean AJ's been skating with us for quite some time now, even last year. So they do kind of start skating with us a little bit younger
That's
if they're
good.
part of that development pathway in Peterborough. And again, like he's growing. Again, been playing a little bit with the Phantoms too, I believe, or training with them as well. But again, I watch him in training, and he's got some really good stuff. And so sometimes I'm like, whoa, did he just did he just do that? And he's a confident lad as well, which is good. The Alex Rushby signings obviously massive. I think there was probably a lot of teams kind of sniffing around him to get hold of him. I think he was obviously feeding Paddy the puck quite a bit, and vice versa, Paddy feeding him. So, but yeah, no, it was obviously we set up that kind of the latter of the third year really of that development pathway we got with the Lions. Obviously, having played there myself, speaking to Matt and Gloss, who obviously are in charge of the Lions, there's no real in between ground in Nottingham. So
Yeah.
it's either your Lions or you go somewhere else, or you go to Panthers. And with a 15 import elite league now, the opportunities not massively there, but it's such a big step, and it's such a big step from NIHL north and south to the NIHL.
Yeah.
So for us, what we wanted to do was we wanted to create that pathway. So over the last 2 years, obviously this will be the 3 years, the Lions send 3 or 4 players on 4 week blocks with us. So
Oh, nice.
they train twice a week with us, and then if we say have a spot open for them in the lineup, maybe to dress or get a few shifts, or they haven't got a game, then they get that experience. So the idea is we're not coming in and poaching their players, because they've got a team that they need to build and put together as well. We actually work together, and we show the young guys what that next level is and what that next step was, and then we kind of give them feedback. They see kind of where they, I guess, match up with our young guys, and I guess like your top six forwards and your top 4D, and they see what they've got to do to kind of get to that level as well. And then it rolls from there. Obviously, Alex skated with us a little bit last year, but he seems like he's got a really good head on his shoulders, because it would have been really easy for him to maybe jump and go to a team in our league and go there full time, and potentially, you see it sometimes a lot with younger kids. They
Yeah.
don't get the opportunity of the ice time. So with us, the idea is that he'll play a lot with the Lions like he does. He'll skate with us, once, twice a week as well. And then when opportunities are there, he'll come and play and dress, and hopefully then it kind of builds. I think you have to remember he's only 17, I believe. So
Maybe
he's
16.
he's only
It's nuts, isn't
16.
it?
So he must be soon turning 17, because I
Yeah.
guess he would have been 16 last year. So yeah, and you look at him and he doesn't look like a 16-year-old either.
No,
But
he's a big boy.
he's a big lad. But it's definitely exciting to kind of I suppose, have a talent like that that's done that in the league before, but also number one as well. He wants to come and play in Peterborough and be a part of that. So, and again, that kind of comes through the collaboration piece and that partnership that we've got with the Lions. So yeah.
Nice one. And I think that's definitely something which maybe some Phantom fans didn't know, but they'll be really happy to know you've kind of got that collaboration. And I assume that will carry on into next season as well.
Yeah, no, it's something that was really important, that we wanted to make sure was still there. And unfortunately, in Peterborough, the junior system isn't as big as the one
Yeah.
in Nottingham. So, and it's not far. We've got a Nottingham car, but we've still had some really good talent come through the Peterborough system as well. But vice versa, I suppose. Obviously, Phantoms 2 are in the NIHL 2 South. Phantom Lions are in the NIHL 1 North, so
Right.
there could be some collaboration there to give opportunity for players to maybe
Mm.
play up into the Lions as well from the Phantoms too, if there's an opportunity there. So there's a good piece there to work on, obviously.
Yeah. Obviously next season then, you mentioned off camera there is still a couple more maybe signings which are going to be announced, but the roster's pretty much there and thereabouts finished. What are kind of your expectations going into next season? Obviously, you mentioned you started well at home, but maybe not quite so on the road. Will you, I guess, be looking for that consistency a bit away from home and across the season?
Yeah, I think that's what any team's trying to find, isn't it? And I suppose the big thing is obviously what Ash comes in to kind of do
Yeah.
as well. Like, that's going to take time to probably bed in, but I suppose what he's kind of not going to have is he's got kind of a core group and guys that have been there for a while, so everybody kind of knows each other. So in terms of, I suppose, everybody pulling in the right direction and buying in, and wanting to be there and stuff like that, like he won't have that to kind of, I suppose, battle with or anything
Yeah.
like that. So, everybody be keen and hungry to, I suppose, impress and try and cement their place in the lineup. Because that's going to be the big thing. It's kind of it was always for Slava as well, but obviously he knows guys what they're capable of. This is a completely new team for Ash to see. So there's opportunities here for guys to, really impress and showcase what they can do, and I guess fight for playing time.
Yeah. And I'm going to put you on the spot again. If you had to pick one player, maybe a younger player who is kind of one to look out for this season for Peterborough fans to look out for, or for fans who are watching who support another team, who would you choose?
Oh, um, I think I'll probably there might be two here. So I
Yanni
think
Lakanen? No, I'm joking.
I think Barney
Yeah.
Barney really started to grow into the season. I think, again, like for every young kid, it's kind of tough. You play juniors,
Yeah.
you're the guy, you're scoring, you're putting up points, and then you take that step to senior hockey, and you're in a semi-professional environment, and then you kind of getting scraps of ice time here and there. You're having to play a certain way that you've probably not been used to,
Yeah.
and you're having to adapt and build to that. Not only then you're playing against experienced men as well. So I think what we started to see, especially the playoffs. I think if you watched him in the playoffs, he was fantastic, and he can shoot the puck and he can skate and he can move.
He's a
And
good
again, like,
skater. Yeah.
yeah,
Good
he'll
skater.
hopefully that'll all kind of come together for him, and you'll start to see him contribute more offensively, because he's doing the
Yeah.
the things right on the other side of the puck. So then he starts getting more opportunities out there offensively. And then I think my other one is probably Richard Hartman. I know we only got a half a year with him, but
Yeah.
again, he's young, but he plays the right way.
He was
He's
Dan's
humble.
one. Oh, I might have just spoiled it there, but he was
No,
Dan's one to watch.
yeah, and he goes to the dirty areas and stuff like that. And for me, like you've got to have players that want to get in front of the net and score the unpretty goals, the
Yeah.
tap-ins, or they're hitting them off the back of the backside or something like that. And if he does all those things right and stuff like that, it's quite easy to sometimes, before you know it, be sat there with like 10, 15 goals, and
Yeah.
you've contributed from like a bottom six role into that, and that's when again more opportunities start to open up, and you find yourself getting more ice time. You get stuck in front on the power play and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's those two guys could have a really big year. And I know he's been there a while, been with us for a while. Like I think Jasper's 5 seasons now.
Yeah.
And again, in terms of like all the tools and stuff like that, I think like, and you forget how young he is as well.
Yeah.
I think
He's
there's
21.
yeah, he's 21. He's had Slava his whole time there and stuff like that as well. So be interesting to see how Ash utilizes him as well. And like you say, something could just like click there, and before you know it, he's there slamming 20, 25 goals in, because again, his shot, his speed, his hands are ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it's just putting it all together.
Someone who isn't a younger one, but is definitely someone who just took the playoffs by storm in front of everyone was Nathan. And for me, he was probably the player of the weekend in terms of just that Saturday night was one of the best performances I've seen from a player. Um, I bet you're excited to see what he can bring next season. Maybe if he's playing next to Dylan or with one of those imports as well. Just he was so good, man.
Yeah, I know and that's like kind of like you said, that's kind of like really what Nathan is capable of. And there was games this year that he did do that
Yeah,
for us as well. On obviously you don't see him week in week out,
no,
where and again that was a massive pickup for us last year. Again, we were really needing somebody else to add into the top six, and he became available, and I know he'd been to us a few times, but you just knew what he brings. He's again, really good in the dressing room. He's professional, takes care of himself. Plays the right way, has a little bit of an edge, but like you say, you know what he brings, and like you
yeah,
say in the playoffs, it was just like, again kind of just playing to that full ability that he's got there, and was really really pleased to see it, even though it was probably a little bit disappointing for you guys to see. But like I say, it's those are the games, aren't they? And
yeah.
those are the games that everybody wants to play in. And like you say, sometimes you have a guy that like you say, is a good player, a really good player, who then just stands out above everybody, and is probably not the one that you would have expected to either.
Yeah, and those players are still so important. Obviously, you have that top line which speaks for itself, but a guy like Nathan Salem coming and making the difference. Bit of away from hockey. I know you're a big Forest fan. What is your expectations for them next season? Obviously getting to keep Morgan's Gibbs White as well. Sorry if you're not really a football fan watching, but I know you're a big Forest fan.
Yeah, no, it's I work for them as well, so
Yeah,
yeah, so it's all encompassing in my life really. So yeah, it's again just an unbelievable like journey there, like watching the club, well, my hometown club there grow and do what they're doing. It was dreamland last year, them being what they were, and I suppose it was disappointing dropping out the Champions League spots. In my mind, I think that's probably a blessing. I think
yeah,
infrastructure wise, squad depth and stuff like that, it might have been a step too far. I mean, you looked at Aston Villa until probably they made those January signings. It really affected their league form, and then
yeah,
it all turned around for them. I think, well, it seems like it's Europa League now that we've got after the Crystal Palace and
yeah, yeah,
Leon stuff. So I think that's a good test. Um, Again, I think for me, a good Europa League run will be great.
yeah.
And then also, I suppose finishing in that top half of the table again, it'll be massive. But I don't think teams will be as surprised to our playing style and what we're about and what we do. I think they'll definitely be ready for us. But yeah, and obviously Gibbs White's just a massive a
Nah,
massive
you kept him.
re-signing for us. Yeah, it's a little bit wild because it just seemed like he was gone, and then before you know it, a bit of a plot twist, and wait, now he's signing back. It's a massive statement of intent for
Yeah.
not only the fans but the whole league to say like, look, you're not getting our best players that easy. I know we sold Alanga, but I think that was a bit of a no-brainer there. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but I mean, 60 million
For the money
for
you
him.
got, yeah.
Yeah, for when you paid, I think we paid like 15 or 17 million for him. Like PSR wise, that's a no-brainer. But you can kind of, I guess, replace wingers. They're
Yeah.
quite easy to get hold of, but somebody who makes things tick in the midfield, like Gibbs White, and I mean, we again talking about football here, but they managed to grab that Elliot Anderson from Newcastle last year, and like he just freed up Gibbs White in the midfield there. He
Yeah.
was fantastic as well. So yeah, you can tell I'm excited about it and passionate about it as well. It's good to see.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. A Europa League championship for Forest or another playoff win for the Phantoms?
Uh, yeah, it'd have to be another playoff win for the Phantoms, right? Because I
PR
physically
answer.
there involved in that. So yeah, but
No, I
no,
believe you. I believe you. We always end it then, Tom. Little message to the Phantoms fans. Obviously, this new era under Tate, and I'm sure this isn't just going to be a one-off kind of season for him. So what's kind of your message for the Phantoms fans?
I think it's always the same, really. Like, they always do. We've maybe not got the biggest fan base, but we've got a passionate one. They're always behind the guys. I've always believed in us, and it's going to be exciting to play in front of you again. And like you say, usher in this kind of new era of, I guess, Ashley Tate hockey in Peterborough.
Nice one. And you've decided to go on another season. Will this be your last one, or you will see how it goes first?
We'll see how it goes. It's I think for me, I ideally touch wood. Whenever it does end, it ends, and like anybody, you want to be able to go out on your own terms, and
Yeah.
when you feel like it's that time. In fairness, I skated in Nottingham last year, and was it like Ollie Bettridge, Cade Nielsen, Logan Nielsen were all on the ice, and I stepped on my first training session there, and they were just whizzing around. I think they'd been on for 2 weeks, and I was like, whew. I was like, this might be my last season here, and then it was
No,
all okay. So we'll see how it goes. I think for me now, it's just all about enjoying it. Like you say, sadly it'll have to come to an end at some point. So yeah,
you still got 40 odd points, so maybe you can give someone else a chance to get those points this season.
it's like you say, it's just all about enjoying it really. And like you say, if we can be in the hunt for some silverware again and stuff like that, it'd be
Absolutely, yeah.
fantastic.
Nice one. I'm not sure when we play you actually. But whenever we do, we'll say hello. And good luck for this season, mate.
I appreciate it and thank you for having me on.
Nice one. Hello and welcome back. On to the next segment of the roster. Peterborough have signed up, and Charlie and Dan always laugh at that because I literally finish the last segment and then go straight into it like there was no interview. But we'll go on to the goalies. Levine obviously is the starter. He's returning next this season. I think we're all in that. We don't really need to go into it, but both in agreement. I think that's the right decision. And you just got to give him another season where he's had that full season with him now, and I think he can kick on next season.
I think he'll be better next year.
Yeah,
I genuinely do. The thing with Living is from speaking to Tom, Living isn't he works a job as well. So it is more difficult than being a full-time goalie. And Living has played at an extremely high level in the University of Michigan,
yeah,
which is disgusting as the starter for 2 seasons and then the backup for the last year. And then he played SPHL and ECHL. But I really do think Living, after having a year of being a starter, like you said, will really start to settle. And you'll start to see. I reckon Living will hit a 9-1 next year. I really do. I think Living will have a
big
big year.
step.
I think he'll take that step up. I don't know what you think, Dan. I'd be interested to hear what you think on that one.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got places to step up in his game. From what I've seen of him, he has times where he shows what he can do, and then other times where it's like he could be doing better. And I think when you look at the other import goalies in this league, obviously, for example, you've got Max Wright, like who's fully on it every single game. You don't seem to see that with Levine.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if sort of Tate gets a different style out of him
What I
because
think, yeah.
very much as we know, Slava is a very much a coach that just looks at playoffs and his sort of league doesn't really matter to him. So he maybe feels like he hasn't got that much pressure in those league games to obviously perform. Obviously, Tate is a guy that's going to be wanting to win either way, if it's league, if it's cup, if it's playoffs, and maybe he can sort of get that next step out of Levine and sort of talk to him and say, "We know you can get to these levels. These are the levels that are single game." And you just don't know what sort of conversations are going to be going on like that. And also, the league is getting better. Like Levine is going to have to hit those levels that we know he can. Otherwise, they are going to pay for it. So personally, as well, Levine does have to step up, I think. And for those games that maybe got away with it last time, he might not get away with it this season because of the improvements that every team has made. So he has got to step up. And I think, like Charlie said, you will see the next level of Levine. And I think that's what Peterborough need at the back as well.
I think a 9-1 is quite a high save percentage. I think,
He was 960 this year.
yeah,
He's only going up a tad.
I just think because right. So we'll get on to well, they've also got Bainborough, who's on a two-way with the Peterborough Twos, and Luke Clark is on a two-way. I quite like that. So they have a
Mm.
backup with the Phantoms, and then a starter with the Phantoms too. But the D in front of him, this is where I'm saying he doesn't. Peterborough decided to go with the three import forwards, which I agree with. I think they should have, because they needed that import to go on the second line so you can keep the top three together. But it does mean you have this exact same decor pretty much as last year, of Bauer and Norton, Buglas and Thorpe, and then you've got Robson and Venskatonis, with Gretton if you need to play him in D. So they've got the exact same decor. Um, Charlie, me and you have had conversations about Brad Bowering. We think this is the season where he almost becomes that top guy now for Peterborough offensively. So he might get that opportunity on the power play, and just in general, he might be able to show his offensive skills a bit more with the new coach of Tate.
Yeah, I think Brad Barron's 23. He's moving into that middle step of his career. He's no longer a youngster, but he's still got potential to continue to grow. Last year he hit 31 points, which is his lowest tally in 2 years. So the 2 seasons before he topped that. And I think Tate will bring something different out of him. If I was to pick a player on this team potentially who's going to benefit from Slava not being there, I actually think Brad Barring could be that guy. I think Brad Barring is quite a unique D man in the way he's got this skill, and I think it's a year for him to step up with Tom Norton hitting. I think he's 35 now. So I think it's the year for him to step up, take that top pair role, be the guy who Peterborough's play runs through, and I think it's a huge year for him. And I don't know if he's got ambitions for the Elite League or not, but either way, I think it's a huge year to continue to establish himself as one of the most talented, skillful offensive defensemen.
Yeah, I think without that import slot, obviously linking it to Telford a little bit, Rhodes Mitchell King got a big role last year and he had his best points year. Could we see the same with Bowering? I think it's looking like a very good possibility this season. So I completely agree. And then down the decors, pretty much the rest of the same. The one player maybe I'm looking out for to take a step now he's had a full season, is Nojas Venskatonis. Still really young. But if he's on that third pair with Robson, who's got plenty of experience, he's someone who I could see take a bit of a jump, like Billy Thorpe did a couple seasons ago.
Yeah, and Billy Ford was another guy that I was going to go into. He's another guy that I think could take that extra step as well. I think we've seen parts of his game, not so much like a Byron that's got that offensive sort of stature, but in the defensive zone and stuff like that, he's got that
He's only
potential to be one of those.
he's only 20. Sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
realise
so
Thorpe's still only 20.
they've got some young D-men there that have got a bright future ahead of them, and I think Billy Thorpe's that kind of guy that you could see is a really good puck carrier from his own zone, got a good first pass. He's really calm and collected on the puck, and I think he's a guy that's very different to Barron, but I think they both have their own game that they can master. And if they can really get to the top of their game this year, then you slowly sort of start to think they've not gone with an import D, but you start to look at those young Brits and think if they can go to the top of their game and really go to their potential, you can see exactly why Peterborough didn't go with that import D, because they've got the talent there and they've got the skill there. And I think those three guys are gonna come together and really show what the Brit D in that team can do. And obviously, like you said, Barron's gonna have to charge from the front, and I think that's exactly what's gonna happen under Tate.
Yeah.
There's only one D man over 30.
Yeah, it's
So
Tom.
like it's yeah, Tom Norton. So I think it's still a very, very young decor with so much experience. And I think Slava's tactics is always going to kind of be built into a lot of them Phantoms D. And so I get what I completely get, like an import D would make that decor go to probably one of the best in the league, top three. But I think they're in that position where when you've got Barron, Buglass, Norton, Thorpe as your top four, with Robston, Leviticus as your third pair.
Who?
Leviticus,
Leviticus.
it's a very,
Venskatonis.
it's a very good decal. So, yeah, I like
I know what
Peter.
you mean.
I'm actually quite a big fan, but I think I do
Must be a new
particularly
D
quite like
man.
decal.
Yeah. I was thinking new D man looks like.
Leaked it.
But yeah, no, I like the decor. And I think we all said that I think the third import forward was the way to go. Just a couple exits from Peterborough. First of all, Jarvis Hunt. We were actually really excited about him with Peterborough, but he's gone to Milton Keynes, which is again another big opportunity for him. But he hasn't been announced, but everyone seems to believe that Corey McEwen is coming back to Peterborough. So that's kind of the trade-off you get. McEwen's obviously a bit older and a bit more experienced, but they can both run that third line if they need to. But you may see McEwen if he does sign on that second line as well, because Spears isn't back. And then that gives that third line to the youngsters. But the big one, we'll get into it. Dylan Lawrence obviously scored that huge overtime winning goal against Leeds for Milton Keynes, which booked their spot in the final. I think that was the most important goal of their whole season, really, Charlie. Would you agree? Because they don't score that, they don't win anything last season, and it's quite an underwhelming season. And he had a tough year last year in terms of injuries. I think he only got a point per game with, and for your import, you do expect a little more than that. But at the end of the season, in that playoff run, he had just over a point per game. But at the end of the season, in that playoff run, he really showed kind of that best of Dylan Lawrence.
Yeah, I've always been quite a big Dylan Lawrence kind of not supporter, but like I've been someone
You
who's
loved his
rated him.
game. Yeah.
I've always thought Dylan Lawrence has he's got very high end yeah, potential. When Dylan Lawrence is on it, he's just one of them guys. He reminds me a bit of Aaron now with his shot, where it just goes in, and it's annoying, and it's just very quick and a release. And so he's particularly just good at getting the puck in the net with some wicked hands. And I think yes, it's a great signing for them. Good elite league experience before he came down to the national. His first year for MK, he was very very good, scoring a goal a game. Second year wasn't quite as good with injuries. My biggest question mark is Dylan Lawrence to me seemed like someone who thrived on the MK ice and struggled a bit more in away games. And my biggest question mark is I think we all know it. Peterborough's ice isn't particularly phenomenal, and Dylan Lawrence is a particularly good skater. So I think it would take a bit of time for Lawrence to adapt to having Peterborough as his home rink instead of Milton Keynes, because he is such a good skater. I think he is better on bigger ice pads. So it'll definitely help them in MK away and Sheffield away. But I think it will take a bit of time to adapt to the home rink with all the crazy bounces and bobbles, and I can imagine skating on that rink's different, but it could end up being an advantage. But that's the one question mark for me. But for me, the biggest thing is they've now got two centers. Their 1-2 center punch is sick. Whether that's Ferrara and Lackinen, for not Lackinen, I don't think Lackinen takes face off.
No.
Ferrara and Lawrence or Huff and Lawrence. It's a great 1-2 punch, and I think it's a really good signing. I think that's a great signing for them, and I love the fact he used to play for MK.
Yeah.
Their massive rivalry just has players swapping between the clubs constantly.
I know. You actually say that. I think he had some of his best games in Peterborough.
Really?
And
Okay.
it'll be interesting. But I do agree, we'll have to settle into that rink. But he's going to be able to run that second line, Dan. Well, we assume Tate will go with that top line which played there last year. He might go on to it now and again, but the key with him, I heard a stat that Peterborough didn't have a player last year who had over 50% on the face-offs, and Dylan Lawrence gets over 50% every single season. He's a very good face-off player, and you stick him next to Nathan Salem, who's a bit more of a sniper, and Dylan Lawrence can play make as well. I just think Peterborough have now got that depth guy, and they've that import forward has the extra import has helped them massively.
Yeah, I think with Dylan Lawrence, obviously we saw him his first year in MK. He was on that line with Herman and
Oh, he's
Venus,
ridiculous.
and he was unreal. I think last season, obviously, he had injuries, so he came out the lineup, and then he was coming back into the lineup halfway through the year. Sort of already those lines have already sort of gelled together, and it's always hard coming back into a team that's obviously you've not been playing in for like half the year, and it takes a bit of time. You saw like the end of the season going into playoffs. He obviously started getting his sort of mojo back and sort of getting gelled back into that line. So I think the biggest thing that Tate's got with Lawrence is he needs to make sure he puts him on the right line from the start. I think Lawrence is the type of guy that you get the best out of Lawrence when he's with the right guys.
Yeah.
And I think obviously we know we would like to see him on the second line, but I think you've got to look at it like what does Lawrence want? And if you want to get the best out of Lawrence, you need to put him with those right guys. And if that's what Tate needs to do to get some production from Lawrence, then that's what he'll have to do. And I think Tate's got enough players there that he can move around and sort of work with. But Tate's just got to do the right job of obviously finding the right pairings for everyone and sort of finding those right lines in that top six.
Yeah, he's definitely got players to play around with, and then someone who is also on a two-way again, with Peterborough, which is the right move for me, is Zane McKenzie, and I actually think he had a decent little impact with Peterborough last year. Obviously he's with Coventry, but he didn't get played too many games for the Blaze, and I think Peterborough played a bit for them in defence when they had injuries, and he could play forward as well. So they can get 30 odd games out of him. That's a nice little depth piece. And then the big young signing for me is Alex Rushby. Obviously, you do not want to rush him in because he is so young. He's only 16 years
I
old.
like what you did there. That was good.
Wait,
That was
what?
good.
Oh,
Good.
Rush. Yeah,
Yeah, very
I
good.
didn't even like plan that. But 16 years old, he will be 17 by the time the season starts. But he got 75 points in 32 games. So over 2 points a game for the Nottingham Lions in the National One. And he's on that two-way with the Nottingham Lions again, which I think is the right move because you don't want to just chuck him into the national straight away. But it's very exciting, Charlie. He's definitely someone, if implemented right and eased into it, I could see him being a future star of the National League. Obviously, it's a very early take, but the numbers he's put up so far in his juniors and last season is monstrous.
And you know he's special when he's outscoring Mr. Aura, Alex
Hadalek.
Padalecki. But no, it's a good mentor to learn from, and one of the things which hasn't like been official, but you can really see a link between Nottingham and Peterborough.
Yeah.
It's starting to come through. Obviously the Nottingham Lions took a big step forward last season. I'm going to give a lot of credit to Alex Padalecki on that one and helping out the youngsters grow. But they took a big step forward last year, Nottingham Lions, and they actually got some wins on the board and had some young talents start to come through. And it's great to see that them young talents are now going to Peterborough. And so you've got Peterborough National 2, Peterborough National, not Peterborough National 1, Lions National 1, and Peterborough National, and then Nottingham Elite League. So there's a pathway there now. And I think it's really cool to see the development. And I think he's someone who I can see a Tate enjoying a player like him. Tate always had maybe two cage boys he'd chuck out all the time in Ollie Hemmings, Mayer, and Cathcart, I think it was, wasn't it, Dan?
Yeah,
when they were 16. And so Tate's not someone who shies away from playing youngsters. If they're good enough, he'll play them. So if this Alex Rushbury can adapt to the National League decently well and not make stupid mistakes, I think Tate will give him the lead to kind of get going, and hopefully we can start to see his points develop and kind of grow that, because I think, like you said, in maybe a year or two we could see him flying up the lines for Peterborough. He's clearly got the offensive talent.
Yeah. And then the other one is actually a Peterborough junior, Aidan J. Herring, who got a few games last year when he turned 16 for the Phantoms. And I've heard some really exciting things from him from a few Peterborough fans. So definitely a lot of young players, including Kinniston as well, who's still young, to watch out for next season. They've obviously got the re-signings of Hartman. He obviously loved his time when he returned. I think he's going to take a step next year. And then it's pretty much the same core. They've got a couple more to announce, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much the same. Actually, we'll quickly touch on Tate. The Slava reign is over with the Phantoms, and it's been a very successful reign for Peterborough, considering they're not one of the highest budget teams. They never have been really. But the trophies that he's managed to win with them, I know all the Peterborough fans were sad to see him go, but it's a new era with him. And we'll quickly touch on it. Charlie, what are you expecting under Tate? Because you know he's not going to be quite as structured in terms of defense and trap hockey and all of that stuff. We might see a bit more, I don't know what the word is, maybe a bit more free flowing.
I think
Peterborough, like the players get to do a bit more what they want. I don't know.
I think we're gonna see a more doggy Peterborough. I don't know if people get what I mean there, but what I mean by doggy is I think this Peterborough team's gonna have a mean strike to it.
Yeah.
Tate's the type of guy who launches his clipboard on when he's not happy, and I think
Harvard did as well, to be fair.
yeah, Slava did as well.
yeah.
But I
Slava
could
falls
imagine
off the bench, mate.
I can imagine Tate sending out Gretton when he's not happy and getting Gretton to do some work. And I think we're gonna see, yeah, a mean streak to them. I think Hartman's gonna pick up some penalty minutes this year, and I think they're gonna have this a bit more of like a roughness to them. I think the fans will enjoy it. I think there's gonna be a feeling when you go to Peterborough that you're gonna get hit around and bashed around a bit. And I think Tate's a coach who takes every game really, really seriously. And I think we have seen in previous years Peterborough kind of start to not care a bit about the league. I don't think we'll see that as much. And I think don't underestimate the fact that these Peterborough players are drilled for cup competitions, whether they qualify for the cup or not. Yes, it is a new coach and a new era, but this Peterborough team knows what it takes to get out of semi-finals and win a double leg. And yes, Slava's not there to maybe produce the tactics in that area, but Tate will put up a good game plan, and I think these boys know how to produce a game plan. So I think Tate's got a really nice opportunity here, because I think he's got a team which gets it, and I think a team which works hard, which is close together, and I think he's inherited a good squad, and I think be a different Peterborough, but I actually think Tate and Slava are decently similar as well.
Yeah, I think this is Dan. Would you say, no disrespect to the Bison team, but this is probably the best squad which Tate has inherited in terms of overall players. You've obviously got Luke Ferrara, you've got the four imports now, and yeah, there's gonna. I don't know. I don't. I'll say this right now to the Peterborough fans watching, and I think they'll say this themselves. I don't think there's a big pressure for him to come in and automatically win stuff and qualify for finals and all of this. But he's in here for the long run, Dan, and I don't expect him to get sacked or whatever. You see it in football, managers get sacked all the time. I expect him to be given a couple years, if it works out, obviously with him, to be able to implement his style, but also you've got players who've played this same style for so many years, so you might see a little bit of a mix of both.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about with Tate because obviously we talk about Basingstoke and a lot of people think about the last season of Basingstoke, but if you look when Tate first came in, you obviously when he had like Klesner, he had Sean Norris, he had Talbot, you had all these players come in. Bordowski was also a very good import for us. And when he had those sort of players with him, and obviously he was a player coach at that time as well, um, Bison were getting results, and we were getting to finals, we were getting to semi-finals of the cup. Obviously, it didn't. His season at Basingstoke didn't end the way that we wanted it to, but that was always sort of going to be the case. And so I think when you look at what Tate's done with Bison when he had those sort of players around him, and you look at this Peterborough team, he's learned a lot more since he was first coming into Basingstoke as a coach.
Still a
He's
few
obviously
years.
he's had that season with Bees as well. They, no offense to them, but they also were a lesser team like Basingstoke were.
Yeah.
So this is the first time that we're going to see coaches sort of this new sort of coaching style that he's just inherited from being in this league a while. And this team is very able to do a lot of things. And I think the way Tate coaches, like we said with Slavia, you know what you're sort of going to get. I think Tate, you did see bits of that with the bees. Like he was very trap hockey sometimes. Like he was just throwing everything behind the puck because he had to. But now he's got some players going forward. I think you'll see that trap hockey, but with a bit of like a hybrid to it. So you'll see the trap hockey at some points, but then you'll see that stretch pass go forward to those guys that can put the puck in the net. So I think you're going to see a bit of a different sort of trap hockey style, but still a very strong defensive style of hockey that Peterborough are known for playing.
Yeah. And that moves us nicely into expectations. And obviously, I touched on it there, so I'll start. I not expecting them to make a final again straight away. However, I think they should look to try and make either the semi-final of the cup or the semi-final, obviously at Coventry. So one of the two. They didn't have a great start to the season last year, obviously not making the cup, so they'd love to kick on and start the season well. They've pretty much signed the same roster with a couple of nice additions, so it's not like they've got a whole new team to come in. So I think they'll be looking to get a good little start, and if they can qualify for that semi-final, give it a great go. And I think we just need to see a bit like with Jeff Flanagan coming in with the Bison, it's not quite the same, but you just want to see the players play for him, and you want to see a couple of players maybe take that step up as well, younger players, into this team. So yeah, I'm not expecting them to do wonders this season, but I think finishing fifth, sixth in the league, if you can push to fourth, and that would be amazing, and try and make a semi final, either the cup or the Coventry playoff semi final. Charlie.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree. I think it's a big year for developing youngsters.
Yeah.
Brad Barron, Billy Thorpe. I'm not going to pronounce his name again, the other D man. Jasper Foster, Richard Hartman, Aidan J. Herring, Louis Kynaston, Zane McKenzie, Alex Rushby, Barry Sari. There's Barry Sari.
Very
Barnabas,
sorry.
sorry.
Um, but they've got so many youngsters on that team. And I think it's such a big year just to keep the Peterborough kind of train rolling. They do it every year. And yeah, I think they'll have a good push at playoffs. I think if they can start the season hot, great. And I think just let's be consistent. Like and I think let's not get battered this year.
Yeah.
Like don't lose 10-2 to bottom of the league again. Like you can't do that again. So yeah, and I think yeah, I think it's a weird expectations for them this year. Maybe slightly different to previous years, but like you said, a semi-final would be lovely. Be a bit disappointed if they didn't make that from a Peterborough fans perspective, but yeah, just a good fun year. I think some Peterborough fans want to see some fun hockey, some different hockey.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Biggest
Dan,
fan of
because we're
Slava
saying the
hockey.
same things, a little bit of a switch up. What's your expectations for Tate in his first year, I guess? I know we've touched on it a bit, so just a little expectation on Tate.
Yeah, I mean, there shouldn't be high expectations. I think this year he should just sort of aim to get that good connection with his team. Obviously, we've said that Tate is, if it works out for him, like you said, obviously he's going to be here for the long run. He won't be just here for a season or like a short spell. He's going to want to try and get that good connection with the owners, gain the trust of the owners, gain the trust of the players that he's got with him. Obviously, they've been coached by Slava for a long, long time now, and getting a new coach in, it's obviously going to take you're going to have to gain a bit of trust from them because they've been coached by the same guy for the past however many years. And
Yeah.
I think Tate just needs to get that really good connection with some young guys, really good connection with the veteran guys, and get them to work with him and just sort of really like pass over what his plans are and really sort of reflect it into his coaching and sort of some of these players are going to need to learn a different style of coaching because some of these young guys, they've never been coached any other way. Like they've just had Slava and that's it. So now they're just going to have to try and sort of take in what Tate's got to do, give him time. And Tate's just got to sort of, yeah, just prove that he is the man for this job and prove that he can be a guy that they can trust and a guy that they can listen to.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think he's got to take a liking to the Phantoms fans, and I'm sure he will. Ones to watch then, and we'll bounce back to you, Dan, because we always let you start. So who
Oh,
is your
thank you.
ones to watch for next season?
I'm going to go with Richard Hartman.
Oh, okay, nice one.
Um, we spoke about it earlier on. I think he's got a bit of a step up to make. We saw obviously he started off in MK, came into Peterborough halfway through. We know that's always tough joining another team, but I think in Peterborough you sort of saw what Hartman can do. I think in MK he never got a chance. Like
No.
he came into that team, played one game, I think, or two, and then he was scratched for the rest of them. Like he never got that opportunity to show what he can do, and in Peterborough he really did. And I think now he's going to have that full year in Peterborough. Obviously, a new coach to impress as well. I think you're going to see him take that next step up, and I think he can be that ratty guy that can put the puck in the net. He's not afraid to throw the body. He's not afraid to give those little checks behind the play. Not afraid to crash the net. So I think you're going to see Hartman sort of up his game into every scenario now, and sort of really prove to take what he can do and prove that he is the right man to throw out there at the important moments.
Yeah, I think he'll could possibly get a responsibility on that third line this season as well. Charlie, I think I know who you're going to go with, but yeah, who's your ones to watch?
Some may say it's quite boring, but I think he's gonna have a goated season. I'm going for Luke Ferrara.
Really? Okay, yeah.
I think Luke
That is
Ferrara.
really boring, actually.
I think Luke Ferrara is gonna have a 50 goal season.
Oh,
And I think he's gonna get about 105 to 110 points. And I think he's going to be one of them guys who just says, "All right, I've got to step up. I'm captain. I'm the leader. This is a new era for Peterborough, and I'm the face of this club." And so I think he's just going to cook. And I think everyone's going to go, "Oh yeah, Luke Ferrara is one of the best Brits in the league." Yeah, we forgot that, but yeah, he's still here, and he's still cooking in Peterborough. And he's 32, so I think this will be his best season. Like it will be his best last. He'll go down after this year. I think this will be his
all
up, and
right.
then he'll get
This
worse.
is his peak.
Yeah, I think this
Yeah,
is his
this is the
peak.
end of Ferrara.
No. Well, I'm gonna nick the one I thought you were gonna go with. I'm gonna go with Barron because I agree. I think he'll get that power play spot possibly instead of Norton. You might see a different kind of Barron if he's wanting to push for the elite league spot. So I'm going to go Brad Barron, and then I'm going to put the pressure on him to get that 40 plus points next season with Peterborough. Try and push for that point a game. We'll have to see. So those are our ones to watches. Um, Again, this is probably going to be one of the shorter ones because they haven't really signed too many new players, but I don't think they've needed to. And the players they have signed, as we've mentioned, I think have been the right ones. And you don't want to change too much up with Tate. Charlie's going silly again, so I think we'll call it there. Anything else to add?
I think
Nah,
Louis
I do.
Carnaston will have a good year as well.
Yeah. Dan?
Yeah, just pronounce that D man again for me.
It's been a great podcast. Thank you for watching Macca's Talk Hockey. And make sure you follow our socials, Macca's Talk Hockey on everything. Peace.
We'll see you in the next team special, and I don't know who it will be and when it will be, but we'll see you in the next one. Peace.